Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tour Pro Talks. I'm Genevieve White, and I'm joined today by Kerstin Devine of Devine Tours Scotland. And Kerstin has a tour business which creates bespoke tours for the creative traveller. And she's going to be talking to us today all about the art of slow travel. Hello, Kerstin, and welcome to Tour Pro Talks.
Yes, hello, Jenny. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely to have you with us. And hello, everybody who's watching, or if you're watching on replay later on today, hello to you as well. Do please feel free to say who you are, where you are listening or watching from. And if you've got any questions at all for Kerstin, please do put them in the comments. It would be great to have your questions as well. Now, before we get started, just to let you know, Kerstin and I both have terrible colds. So if you see us blowing our noses, or I've got a little nasal inhaler with me today, which maybe looks a bit dodgy, but if you see me inhaling, it's not anything dodgy. It's just we're just trying to get on top of our colds. So bear with us. We are in the middle of a Scottish summer, so these things happen. Anyway, let's get started, Kerstin. So I thought we could maybe just start today by talking a little bit about slow travel. You know, it's one of these phrases that we maybe hear a lot, but as somebody who practices slow travel, and you know, slow travel is a big feature of your tours and your tour business, what does slow travel actually mean?
Well, slow travel means that it is a meaningful travel experience, so that allows the person who practices slow travel to get to know the culture, the local culture, and the heritage of the country that they're visiting. And so, in that case, when they apply the slow travel, then they can actually they are the masters of their own speed. So everything will happen in the right time. So they can allow meaningful time to just take in the landscape, for example, or just have a talk to some locals, just looking at somebody's garden, and the person might be out there and tending to the garden, and you strike up a conversation. And so that is all part of the slow travel experience as well. So there is not kind of very tight schedule time set for the entire day. Of course, we do have our time structure for the day, but we allow enough time to just be mindful. Yeah. So that's the
Okay.
travel.
Okay, so it's kind of a move away then, I suppose, from that kind of ticking things off a list as quickly as possible, you know, of that kind of whole kind of bucket list idea, of seeing as many different places as quickly as you can. And it's more about like connecting with people, I suppose, and getting out of that little kind of tourist bubble.
Yes, correct. And it's like I've seen people taking off boxes like this as well, and watching them, because when I'm out touring, I tour with different people too, but then I see that they are at the end of that taking off box tour. They're so exhausted. And I think like it's a shame, because wherever they are, they don't have that experience. All that they can remember at the end of it is not the places that they've really seen. They remember how exhausted they felt coming back. And that gives them a negative kind of point to the whole experience. And I always say
Mhm.
that when I'm out with my guests, they might not necessarily remember my name, but they will remember how I made them feel, or how the whole tour made them feel, you know, and that's
Mm.
something that they can cherish for a long time.
Yeah, and I suppose then it links back to a positive connection with the place they visited, and maybe makes them more likely to visit the place again. Because do you feel as well that, you know, with slow travel, you know, it's almost like the closer a connection you form with a place when you're visiting it, you know, it's not like then that place is ticked off your list. You're more likely to have kind of unfinished business there, so to speak. You want to go back and see that person again and learn more about this particular thing. And, you know, do you find you get quite a lot of repeat business, repeat clients?
You do, and a lot of word of mouth as well, so that people come away from the experience and they felt it was really great. And so there is repeat business, definitely. And also, if you concentrate on a certain area, a local area to yourself, rather than trying to cover the entire country where you are. So there's plenty of work out there. Like, you don't need to have this fear of missing out, that if you're not covering and offering everything, that so that you don't get business. That's far from it. So if you are becoming more an expert in that particular area and giving a really good experience to your clients, then in that way, yeah, the people will come back. And with Scotland, in my case, it is really like, people, even if they have never been to Scotland and have no links to Scotland, once they come here, they're so surprised about the country itself, the beauty and the history, the culture, and how many similarities there are to maybe their own culture. And then it always say, be careful coming to Scotland, because when you leave, you might leave a piece of your heart here. So you'll need to come back again, you know, that kind of thing. So it's exactly what you said.
You're so right. I mean, obviously, I'm Scottish as well. I'm a tiny little bit biased, but yeah, for a small country, there are just so many different, you know, diverse pockets, and you can spend. Well, I mean, the part of Scotland I'm in is so tiny you can hardly see it on the map, but you could spend years exploring it, in my opinion. Okay, we've got a couple of comments coming through, so I'm going to pause my questions for now and have a look at some of these comments. So we have, hello to Barrio Travel on Tour. Very conversation, we need it. Yeah, I think we do, don't we? It's becoming a real, yeah, I mean, it's linked with sustainability as well, isn't it? Slow travel. So yeah, we might touch on that later on. And hello to Angelica. I think this type of tourism is perfect for places where natural landscape is the main part of it. We need time to properly experience places and create memories. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Angelica. And then we have Junaid. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just Junaid's talking about the differences between traditional tourism, with the ticking off the popular sites, and yeah, taking time engaging with the locals and experiencing the essence of a place. Wow, we're getting lots of comments today. This is lovely. And Angelica's just agreeing with you there.
That's
Left
nice.
there. Lovely. Whereabouts were you, Angelica? Let us know in the comments. Okay, so we've spoken a little bit about what slow travel is. I think we've maybe touched a little bit on the benefits of slow travel, which are, you mentioned, Kerstin, you mentioned like making memories, you mentioned that sense of connection. You also, I think, mentioned the fact that, you know, with traditional box ticking travel, it can be very exhausting.
Yes.
So it's possibly the opposite of exhausting. I don't know, rejuvenating maybe. Can you think of any more benefits of slow travel that we haven't already covered?
I think, well, most all of them apply that we've already mentioned. And it's also, it gives you a better sense and understanding of the country you visit at the time, because sometimes you have a perceived opinion about that country out of media conditioning or anything else, or somebody else said something about the country, so you're coming in with an opinion about the country. But then I think when you engage in the slow travel, and you can have lots of experiences. So for mine, what I offer is the craft tours, but there are lots of different other experience, photography, and you can go hiking, you can, there's so many things, like whatever you really have an interest in. So, but once you do that, you also then engage with the people, you make the connection, and all of a sudden you realize that, oh yeah, okay, they might be from different countries, but they're actually very similar to yourself, and immediately you have this link. And then with, for example, with the craft tours, all these old indigenous crafts that are here in Scotland, for example, similar crafts like that will be all over the world. But then the difference is that the artisan, the creative person, maybe added his own touch to it. So there's like, and the culture, of course, like, so there's various different symbols and various different techniques that are different and only unique to that specific country that you visit in. And also the material that they used, that will be a different material slightly, because maybe take wool, for instance. So we have everywhere, or a lot of places, knitting, but then where the wool comes from or the breed of animals may be different, and that is then again the difference to that. And so you have a common ground to talk about certain things. So and that really can blow up this experience to a total different level.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much coming out of what you're saying here for me, Kirsten. I mean, for one thing, I'm thinking, if I look back on all of the travel experiences I've ever had, it's always what can make or break a travel experience for me is the people. And
Yeah.
it's always the people that are in my memories rather than, the sites I've seen or the museums. It's if I've managed to have a connection with a person, then that makes a memory. And also just what you were talking about there with your crafting, which we're going to speak about in a little bit more detail in a moment.
Mhm.
Just thinking about, with the sort of fast tourism or traditional tourism, I should say, you just thinking about all of these kind of mass-produced souvenirs you get and that you buy without really thinking about them, without knowing anything about their provenance. And what you're describing there, it is just the opposite end of the spectrum, but how much more meaningful that experience is,
Yeah.
knowing the story behind the craft, knowing the personal story, knowing the provenance of the different strands where things came from. So yeah, that's really lovely. Now there's a few more comments coming in. So Angelica, yes, she's living in London, so knows the feeling of not having a slow life. So yeah, I mean that's another point, Kirsten, I suppose. Do you find that quite a lot of the people, a lot of your guests come from places where they have a very fast, frenetic lifestyle, and it's the contrast they're looking for? They want to take time out of a very busy life.
Most of the guests so far, they have had a lifestyle like that, but they are now of an age where they are maybe retired, and they have realized that now there is a time that they want to take things slower. But definitely the market is out there for like people who are still living in the hectic lifestyle, and it's a meaningful way of kind of slowing down and recharging their batteries. And often though, especially even from my own experience, because before I become a tourist guide, I was in corporate business. It was all very hectic and very target written time schedules and everything. So it takes time to slow down. So you're coming out of it, and it's not all of a sudden that you step into the next room, say, and all of a sudden everything is calm. You're still running at 100, like it takes a while until you kind of slow down. And but it's I think it's society nowadays as well, like that people, it's just the way things are with everything. We can be approached any time of day and night through our like phones and everything. We're always reachable, and so it's just to go back a little bit and be more aware that like you need to look after yourself as well. And through the slow travel, by doing that, you're pacing yourself backwards a slightly little bit, and
Mm.
learning to relax again. And so that's really important too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good point. What you're saying about, even if you don't come from a fast-paced city, just the demands, the stresses and strains of modern life, of technology, of work. I mean, I come from Shetland, and probably from an outsider's point of view, I would have a very slow, easygoing lifestyle. But because of work, because of commitments, I think I would need to breathe and relax and, almost go through that process you described there, Kirsten, of kind of slowing down consciously.
Yeah.
When I'm having a break from work.
Mhm.
Okay, I think here's Junaid making a little plug for slow travel in Pakistan. So it does sound like an amazing place to experience slow travel, Junaid. So yeah, that does sound lovely. I mean, I suppose potentially, there could be lots of places around the world that have this everywhere. I mean, what do you think, Kirsten? Could every destination potentially be a good slow travel?
Definitely, definitely. As even when I do my own private travel, I always seek out those places. And if I haven't seen them advertised, I make a point of seeking this out. And you always find the destinations. And the important thing is also you're supporting local, smaller businesses. And so that is sometimes when, yes, there are, and I don't want to be negative, but there are already kind of slow travel labeled tours out there with the bigger companies, and they're doing a great job, and it is really, really good. But then it's also sometimes as a smaller business, you think, oh, I could never reach to that level. But you don't need to, because you're unique to yourself, unique character, and also you have your own personal interests. And if you start looking around, you all of a sudden realize, oh gosh, I have so many connections that I can actually kind of make use of. And then you stay local, you help your local kind of businesses. And also the other thing is to keep these travels small. Don't think you have to now all of a sudden to create it with big groups. Slow travel is not really suitable for massive groups. It's much better with a smaller group. It's also on a tour, from the tour guide's perspective, it's manageable much better. And yeah, Angelica is saying quality over quantity, definitely. So, and that is really, really important. And it allows the group members to really strike up not only like friendships or good connections with the local people, but even amongst themselves, because you might feel that they're coming from all different places too. And so you could potentially have friendships formed, and the next time there's two of them traveling rather than just one, or four if it was couples, or so it's a treasure trove of opportunities that you can potentially have.
That's such a lovely dimension as well. Speaking about the personal connections, so it's connecting not just with the people who live in the place you're visiting, but the people in the small group you're traveling around with. Yeah.
Yes.
Can we talk? I'm mindful of time. I cannot believe how fast it's going, because you've got so many interesting things to say, Kirsten. But I'd love to talk a little bit more about the traditional Scottish crafts that you mentioned. Could you maybe just share some examples? Because it would be really interesting as well, I think, for the people who are watching. Maybe they recognise some similarities with crafts in their own culture. So.
Yeah, most definitely. So first of all, the traditional crafts, that's actually crafts that have been in the country and have been developed out of a necessity. So if you had a little village or a little town at the time, so you needed to have carpenters, you needed to have people who would provide like clothing, anything like that. So that is basically the crafts. And then there are for sure similarities all over the world. So for Scotland, for example, we have a lot of crafts where Scotland tweed and the tartan material, so that kind of thing is there. The cloth making. Then you have a lot of wool. We've got 7 million sheep rather compared to 5.4 million people in Scotland. So you have lots of wool there. And what also inspires me to keep this going is that sometimes people forget about those old traditional crafts, and the crafters are there, but they're starting to find their voices, and they're starting to create more exhibitions, and for people like the public can actually go and see them. But it's important to keep these old traditional crafts alive and give them a place to be. So with the knitting, for example, now Shetland, you're in Shetland, so there's lots of knitting, and the Fair Isle knitting, the Shetland knitting. Then in Scotland itself, we have all the woolen mills and all that, so that is there. And it's great to see how the jumpers are done, but what is the history behind it? Like if we're looking at the Guernsey, for example, so that was a fisherman's jumper, but it was a workman's jumper, really. But then when you start looking into it, you realize that there's so much more history involved in it as well, and that there are symbols on it, and then it could tell where the fisherman came from, and in case there was like an accident out on sea, and all these kind of things. And that makes it really interesting. So it's not just a garment that looks pretty, but it had a very important and vital function of its time. And there's others like the quilting, for example, or basket weaving. That's like something that, again, you find all over the world. But then it might be different weaving techniques, or it might be for sure different materials that you would have, because the branches or the shrubs that are used for it are different from country to country. So there's plenty on the craft side, there's plenty opportunity there in any country in the world. Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about, both with the jumpers, the lovely example of the Fair Isle jumpers you gave, and the baskets, is as well as it being about like mindful, slow and mindful travel, it's about mindful consumption as well. So you're not just buying something because it looks nice.
Yes,
It's
correct.
buying something because you understand the history behind it, you understand the significance of it, and then the souvenirs you take home are going to be so much more meaningful to you as well, and they'll
Yeah,
remind you the
that's true. And
meaningful memories.
it's also when you then incorporate into your tour an experience that, even if the people that you have never, for example, knitted, so then if you then have an experience where you maybe engage a different crafter to come in for half a day to just show them something very simple, but then they're trying it out, and whether or not they're continuing it after the tour, that's up to the individual person. But it might be just something, a little puzzle piece that they can add to the overall picture to see how long it actually takes to make all these jumpers, and then also when you then go back to the source, how do they get spun and washed and carded and all of that, then all of a sudden, like you said, it becomes a treasured item rather than just something I picked up in a local shop. Yeah.
Absolutely, so true. Okay, yeah, thank you. These are amazing answers, Kirsten. But we're going to have to keep pushing on because we've still got quite a few questions to ask. I'm imagining that there are going to be people listening to you now, and they're going to be thinking, "Wow, this sounds amazing. I want to be able to offer this kind of experience to my guests." So, in that, in that eventuality, what advice can you give tour professionals who want to incorporate some slow travel into their offerings?
Well, my suggestion would be that you first of all know your area, do the research on the area to find out what is out there and what can fit within your in your current sort of offers of tours. It'll be strange if you have one particular type of tour and all of a sudden you branch out into this other slow travel. So then approach it gradually and make it a small thing to start off with. It could be just to test it out, like a 1 day experience, and could be part of a walking tour or something like that in your local town or city, and see how it is and watch the people, which people are actually coming and signing up for that particular experience tour. And then gauge it to that audience. So know the audience well, and don't be shy to ask questions about like what made them come to this tour, and have they crafted, for example, if it's craft, or if it's photography, have they done like photography before, and so are they tech savvy, or what are they looking for? So all these kind of things. And then you need to, if you then use the local people again, I think that is very important, because it keeps the travel distance to a minimum, so the carbon footprint is small. You keep it local, and you can later on add to all of this. And you need to know the area really well, and that means then it requires a little skill to create these tours, because sometimes, especially if it's something that you maybe step on to a already ready-made itinerary tour, the person who has maybe curated that itinerary has never been in your location, and so doesn't know really the distances and not the ins and outs. You're the insider. So if you're then doing it for yourself, then you will know like how long it will take to get from A to B. Make sure you allow enough time for your clients to have some free time, like me time, so that they can process what they've seen and experienced, and build that into that itinerary. Don't think, oh, I need to fill it all like for them. I know from experience that they will be really thankful to have an hour or two just to step away and just process what they've seen and heard.
Yeah, I think building in those kind of pauses is really important. Kirsten, that's an incredibly comprehensive answer. Thank you so much. If anyone's been like listening to Kirsten and thinking, oh, I need to take notes, I need to note all this down, don't worry. I'll be summarising Kirsten's words of wisdom and putting them in next week's newsletter. So you'll get all of her advice in written form for you to refer to next week. So, but there's so much there to unpack. So that's really helpful. Thank you, Kirsten. I've just looked at my phone. And there's loads of comments have popped up that aren't actually here in front of me on the screen, and questions. So if you don't mind, Kirsten, I know we're getting awful close to the end, but if you don't mind, I'll just ask you one or two of these questions that have popped up. So Martin Rosenberg, hello Martin, is asking you, what is an average group size? This is a tricky question. The second part, how do you balance between those who want to move on with those who want to linger longer?
Okay, that's really good question. Now, I would say, for me personally, the best group size is maybe between 6 to 10 people for a small group. I have had tours where we were 16, and it worked well because we were all together. We had the same interest of quilting. And so there was lots of engagement within the group. It was a very good dynamic, and there was not a problem. And for the second part of the question, that's where the free time comes in. So if you're basing yourself locally, where you maybe don't have to travel on a coach to a different place. Then you can say, okay, now we've seen these people or these places, or we had a workshop with the artist, and so we'll gather for lunch, and then we have, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours to explore the area. So, and then if you are close enough to where the hotel is or the accommodation where you stay with your group, some of the people can go back to the hotel and the others maybe can roam around more. And so you give them the freedom of choose for themselves what they want to do. And then also, if you have people on the tour and they're constantly pushing on from one to the next, honestly speaking, they're not your right person. So then you maybe kindly say to them, I'm sorry, but we'll need to spend this time here and is allocated, and then gently move them on in that way. And it might be that you don't hear from them again, but that's also okay, because they're not your right person. You want to have the person who really appreciates where you take them and what they see and the experience they have.
Yeah, because
I
it
hope
is really
that
going to
answers.
stress. It's really just going to stress you out if you just have people like, yeah, want to push on
Oh
all the
yeah,
time, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, we've got lots of comments that are appearing, but I don't think there's any questions. You'll be able to, Kirsten, you can go and have a wee look on LinkedIn afterwards at all the comments, but people just really appreciating all that you're sharing here. Someone's wishing that we both feel better soon, so that's very kind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, and yeah, I think I'm going to have to just ask you the last question, which is a shame because I got lots more, but we might need to do a part two of this one day because it seems to be a really popular topic. So the last question really is just because I know people are you've got so many interesting things to say about your tours. Where can we find out more, and how could we go about booking a tour with you if we wanted to do that?
Well, I am on social media, mostly on Instagram and on Facebook under Divine Tours of Scotland. I not very rarely, very rarely go on LinkedIn, but you can catch me on LinkedIn as well. And then I also offer a weekly newsletter that I send out. This is a free newsletter, and it's all about just things about Scotland. And so I can, if you wanted to get in touch, just get in touch by messaging me, and I could send you the link on how to get onto that newsletter distributor list. And I always, when I have a new tour out, it goes out in the email newsletter first before I then advertise it on social media. And because it's limited availability, so with the smaller group size, then it can be snapped up quite quickly. So yeah, so it's always good to have the newsletter coming in on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. I haven't subscribed to your newsletter yet, Kirsten, but I certainly will because I think there'll be loads to learn from it. But what I can say is that I do follow Kirsten on Instagram, and she's got an amazing account, lovely posts, really informative, really beautifully done. I am rubbish at Instagram, so I am looking to Kirsten as my inspiration, because to me it's what an Instagram account should look like. So yeah, definitely give Kirsten a follow if you don't already follow her. Okay, Kirsten, I won't take up any more of your time, and I'm really pleased your voice has managed to hold out for this broadcast because Kirsten was a little bit worried. She had no voice yesterday, so she's done amazing, and we won't be cruel to her and make her talk any longer, although I'm sure we'd all love to hear more of what she's got to say. Thank you so much, Kirsten. It's been brilliant. Thanks very much to all of the audience today for your lovely comments and questions. If I missed anybody out, I'm sorry. I'm not a great multitasker, so I do sometimes miss comments, but hopefully I've got through everybody. So there's lovely feedback coming from the guests as well, everybody saying they really enjoyed it. So thank you. And thanks everybody. And I'll see you next week for the next instalment of Tour Pro Talks. Thanks very much. Thanks,
Thank
Kerstin.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.